Kumusta aking mga kaibigan. So hopefully that was correct. It was a little tricky finding the correct pronunciation when I went to do the Google Translate. It actually had the K's in there being pronounced as F's, and I thought, that doesn't sound right. I better double check that. So I went and did a little more searching, and I found the correct pronunciation. Well, hopefully you can be the judge of that in the comments. I'm here to do another Morissette reaction. Very excited for that. Thank you for all your patience. For all of you fans out there. I decided to go with Secret Love Song. It just looks like one that was requested quite a bit and is very popular. This is a song that was performed by Little Mix several years ago, back in I think 2015 or 2016. And according to my research, was written by Jason Derulo, Jez Ashurst, Emma Rohan, and Tish. And here are the lyrics. When you hold me in the street and you kiss me on the dance floor, I wish that it could be like that. Why can't it be like that? 'Cause I'm yours. We keep behind closed doors. Every time I see you, I die a little more. Stolen moments that we steal as the curtain falls. It'll never be enough. It's obvious you're meant for me. Every piece of you, it just fits perfectly. Every second, every thought, I'm in so deep, but I'll never show it on my face. But we know this, we got a love that is homeless. Why can't you hold me in the street? Why can't I kiss you on the dance floor? I wish that it could be like that. Why can't we be like that? 'Cause I'm yours. And then there's the part Jason sings, when you're with him, do you call his name? Like you do when you're with me, does it feel the same? Would you leave if I was ready to settle down, or would you play it safe and stay? Girl, you know this, we got a love that is hopeless. Why can't you hold me in the street? Why can't I kiss you on the dance floor? There's the chorus again. And nobody knows I'm in love with someone's baby. I don't want to hide us away. Tell the world about the love we're making. I'm living for that day. Someday. And then it repeats. Yeah. Why can't we be like that? Wish we could be like that. So in the research I did, it said there was a part thrown in there that's from where he actually had an affair, I believe. So that's part of what you're hearing there in that one section of the lyric. So yeah, it's about two lovers that have kind of grown apart or been broken apart by affairs, and finding others that they love or care about, and wanting to have that back, right? That's what it seems like to me. Every piece of you, it just fits perfectly. Every second, every thought, I'm in so deep. Yeah. But I'll never show it on my face. So it's, and this is a common issue, right, with relationships in our day, is this whole communication aspect, right? And it's been the source for topics in some of my comments. A lot of the people that commented on my Disturbed reaction mentioned that, as far as how we're all so kind of caught up in our phones and not connecting with people and developing deep relationships with others, and being able to have more like face-to-face contact, more real interaction, right? And that is a problem in our day, and with relationships like this describes as well, right? Yeah, so I'm excited to react to this. I don't know what I'm getting into here with Morissette. You never know. She can really sing in a lot of different areas of the female voice with different styles. She's really versatile with her voice, and so I'm excited to see this performance. For those of you new to my channel, as you can tell already, I love to do the full experience with the artists and read the lyrics ahead of time, and kind of talk a little bit more about the song and how it relates to the artist and the emotion behind it and the story it tells. And also I do a lot of analysis of like the vocal techniques of the artists and how they're producing the sound, and kind of talking about the style and the performance itself. And dynamics, different aspects of the vocal. But I also try to connect really with the artist's interpretation and their performance, because that's really, as I mentioned in other reactions, what is, in my opinion, the most important thing for a song is, does it touch me? Does it inspire me? Does it entertain me? Does it teach me something? Does it relate to me in some way, with something I've experienced in a meaningful way? So those are the things that I look for. And if you're new to the channel or you haven't already, if you could please click on the subscribe button, click on that notifications bell there to be notified of any new Morissette reactions and others you may be interested in. I would appreciate that. And let's get right to it here.
Hey Wishers, this is Morissette. Don't miss any Wishclusive videos. Click here to subscribe.
When you hold me in the street and you kiss me on the dance floor, I wish that we could be like that. Why can't we be like that? 'Cause I'm yours.
Wish 107.5.
We keep behind closed doors. Every time I see you, I tired no more. Stolen moments that will steal as the curtain falls. It'll never be enough.
Wow. Okay. This is a different sound for her, as far as, I think it's because of the nature of the song. It's more kind of this like ballad type performance. She's got a lot of control with the way that she forms the vowels and the way that she delivers the vocal. What I mean by that is, let me point something out here, I'll show you. I'll kind of go through this really quick. And
you hold me in the street and you kiss me on the dance floor. I wish that we could be that.
So what she did right there, where she did the jump, that's pretty hard, for instance, as a vocalist, to go from right here and then jump up into like the upper chest there for her, and really come in on the pitch where you're not kind of scooping up to it. And it's interesting. So I think I mentioned in a previous reaction, my wife's teaching voice lessons again, and we're very similar in the way that we approach, vocal technique and things like that. So it's really interesting to see her work with her students and things, because she was working with one student today and I was helping out on the piano to kind of play parts and things. And she was talking with the younger student about, kind of the same thing, where you're attacking in this case the B consonant, and coming right into the vowel right away without, and it's not as good an example as it would be like if it was a bay where you have a diphthong type thing to kind of show how important it is to go right to the vowel. But it's still important to really come in, especially on the pitch itself, where you're attacking right away. And if you come in on the vowel right away and just get off the consonant, then and the E is kind of already kind of closed, but if it's especially an A, it makes a bigger difference. But come right in on the vowel. So just come right off attack right off the consonant, come right into the vowel on pitch, and not scooping to it or prolonging a diphthong or anything like that. Then that's the way to do it if you want to really have the sound come through and be more of a rich, open, on pitch sound, right? So that's definitely important, and she nailed it right there. I'll play it just real quick one more time. That jump.
I wish that we could be like that.
Right on the pitch.
Can we be like that? 'Cause I'm yours.
Wish 107.5.
We keep behind closed doors. Every time I see you, I die a little more. Stolen moments that we steal as the curtain falls. It'll never be enough.
See how she...
It's obvious you're meant for me. Every piece of you, it just fits perfectly. Every second, every thought, I'm in so deep. But I'll never show it on my face. But we know this, we got a love that is homeless. What can you hold me in the street? What can I kiss you on the dance floor? I wish that we could be like that. Why can't we be like that? 'Cause I'm yours.
And there was that little, her signature little tone there, little scratch there on her voice that comes through on occasion, that you guys have educated me on. That's, she's doing that intentionally. It's just part of her trademark. I've said this before, but she really has a natural instincts about really keeping the sound very open. So even if her mouth is closed, and this normally comes through classical training or something like that, where you learn kind of how to keep this chamber inside here open and keep the soft palate raised up, right? Because I've talked about the singer's smile with other artists as well. And that's really kind of where you've got this type of thing going on, where you're raising your mask, they call it, up, and that lifts your soft palate back here, which gives the sound, think of it like a gateway, and you're pushing air through a tube, and there's a gate, for instance, and how quickly the air moves through that tube depends on how open this gate is, for you to be able to get the air to come through, right? So if you lift the soft palate and you also open the mouth, then that air can come through and you get more sound, and it's easier to stay on pitch because you're not pushing the sound back. That concept of like stepping on a garden hose, right? Where you're stepping on it and then the water can't get through, so you don't get the full pressure, and the water kind of is affected by that, right? So the sound has the same properties like that when it's coming up through the larynx and all of that, right? So the vocal cords coming up through the larynx, how you manipulate those and what you do will determine the pitch and the quality of the sound to some degree. But also, once you get up to here, if you do a lot of nice things with your vocal cords, but then you don't do things properly up here and you close the sound off, or you change the way you shape it as it's coming through, that could, or you with your tongue do different things where you're putting it too far back, or you're singing up through your nose, right? If you get kind of a nasally sound. So there's a lot of different things involved with the voice when you're singing. And I think when I did my first reaction, my guess at first when listening to her was that she was classically trained, but then a lot of you jumped in and said, no, she's not. So like I said, she's got, and I know she has gotten some vocal training from what you guys have said, but she has really good natural instincts as far as keeping the sound open, regardless of what types of words she's singing, whether they're meant to be closed off or open, and just getting the sound to come through very rich. So she has a very, very resonant tone to her voice. And when I say a rich tone, it doesn't mean that it's a low tone, but it does kind of have that kind of darker richness to it. And that's why when I first did a reaction of Morissette, I talked about she has some mezzo-soprano qualities to her tone, just because it's kind of a rich tone when she sings in that certain range, right? And then she can belt up high and also go into whistle. So she kind of has almost like 3 different voices that she sings with, because of how versatile she is. But anyway, I'll get back to it here. Let me go back a little bit. She just has a beautiful voice.
Feel the same. Would you leave if I was ready to settle down? Would you play it safe and stay? But you know.
So these are the types of things she does, right? That we kind of watch and take for granted, but those little runs that she does there, those are hard to do, and she just does them like it's no big deal. You know, she does little things like that some might, see, oh, that's just a little run there, but she's just, every note is right on. The tone is always like, right on and resonant and unique, right? She has a very unique timbre to her voice as well. She's one of those artists that when you hear her, you'll know right away, oh, that's Morissette, right? So, yeah, she's got a lot going for her with what she's able to do. Let me rewind it a little bit here. But yeah, watch for those little things that she does. And I try to point them out as we go. But yeah, the runs, she's flawless. There's that little screech there from her voice, right? You guys have talked about.
You do when you're with me. Does it feel the same? Would you leave if I was ready to settle down? Would you play it safe and stay? But you know this, we got a love that is homeless.
Ooh.
Why can't you hold me in the street? Why can't I kiss you on the dance floor? I wish that we could be like that. Why can't we be like that? 'Cause I'm yours. I don't wanna live this way. I don't wanna hide this away. I wonder if it ever will change. I'm living for a day.
Oh, that was cool.
Someday, when you hold me in the street and you kiss me on the dance floor.
So I need to go back here and listen to that. That was cool. Let's see.
Away. I wonder if it ever will change. I'm living for a day. Someday.
So she flips up into her falsetto there, or her head voice, seamlessly, right? I mean, she's jumping between her different registers, just without even thinking about it. And there's 2 or 3 times actually through the course of that phrase where she's doing that. So she's got great control.
When you hold me in the street and you kiss me on the dance floor.
That was
I
cool.
wish that we could be like that. Why can't we be like that? 'Cause I'm yours. I'm yours.
You hear that?
Why can't you hold me in the street? Why can't I kiss you on the dance floor? I wish that we could be like that. Why can't we be like that? 'Cause I'm yours. Why can't I say that I'm in love? I wanna shout it from the rooftop.
she's bringing it down. Wow. I'm going to go back real quick here. Sorry, guys. Let's see. Just want to point something out real quick here. Sorry. I like how they're showing the hand motions, what she's doing with her hands, because I think that is a big part of expressing yourself. And if you watch Dimash, right, I mean, and other artists, obviously, but you'll see them use their hands a lot when they're expressing themselves. And you can tell right away if an artist is really into the song, because they'll have hand motions that just seem to happen naturally, right? They're not forced. And this is part of being a performer, that it's part of what you go through in really trying to do justice to a performance. And it's something that I went through when I played Javert in Les Mis. I had to really make everything I did choreographed, but have it come across as natural, something that just spontaneously happened, where I've just, as a character, I spontaneously reached up and did this gesture, or put my hands to the heavens, or whatever those things may be, right? So for her, with a performance like this, she's just letting it happen and letting it, the emotion and the feeling from her experiences in life and that relate to the lyrics come through in what she's singing. And in my opinion, she's a great artist for multiple reasons, but one of the reasons is she's able to bring that emotion across in the way that she performs the lyric, and really bring that feeling to it, and still really show a lot of the gifts that she has without making it come across like she's just there to show off and, show you what she can do and how amazing she is, right? So she really handles it and has a good balance to that. So let me see her hands there. See how she's just naturally moving with it. That was a perfect cutoff right there, by the way. I like the reverb there. That's cool. Wow. So she is amazing. I love listening to her voice. She has just one of those really penetrating, resonant, rich tones to her voice, right? And she can really do some incredible things with her instrument. And she didn't go into her whistle in this one, but she did some amazing things and really put on an awesome cover of this song. I love how she just really makes each song her own. She has that little cry in her voice, and that's a unique staple of what she brings. She has this unique way of kind of flipping between her chest and her head voice, and she has a very open sound that's comes through very clearly when she's singing. And I liked, there were a couple times, there was one I didn't stop and point out, but it was where she went down to a lower note. And so you kind of get a sense for her range. She's got pretty impressive range for a female vocalist. And she didn't even really tap into it in this song. But again, that's a mark of a good artist, right? It's like the Dimash reaction I just did. He didn't really, for the Chiron Elim, right? He didn't really go out there and show off his entire range for that song either. it was about the message of the song, and she's doing the same thing here, right? She really brought it, and the runs she did in that song were awesome. And I've talked about it before, but she really does have remarkable breath control. I think breath control is something that isn't really mentioned as often as it should for vocalists like this, because it's really important. And she's sitting down. So a lot of people point that out in their comments, and they should, because it is harder as a singer to sing harder songs and to really challenge your voice when you're sitting down. And it's harder to have the right posture. Like, I would never have this posture if I was going to sing, where I'm kind of leaning forward a little bit. I would be back and be as straight as I possibly could with my chest kind of back to open up my lungs and this whole area for my diaphragm, my shoulders back to some degree, and just to kind of keep everything like that. So like when I've sung in choirs and things like that, sometimes we would actually, when you have those folding chairs that fold down like this, that you sit in, where it's in kind of like an auditorium setting and things like that. The a cappella choir I was in college, the 40 voice a cappella choir I've talked about in the reactions, when we would rehearse, a lot of times we would actually leave the seat up like this, and then we would sit on the seat up here, with it up like that, just kind of sit on the cushiony part here, just because that forced us to sit upright, and it forced our posture to be better, instead of sitting down in the kind of where it sucks your back into the back rear corner. How you've kind of, that it kind of happens when you sit in those chairs. It kind of, your backside kind of gets drawn down into the back part, and then it kind of pushes your back forward. So, so she's really got a lot of control to be able to do what she does sitting down. But yeah, she's just a great person. I can tell. I've watched a couple things with her in them. So I watched, I was just kind of scrolling through some of her videos, and I saw a video where she had been invited to go meet Will Smith, and Alan Menken working on Aladdin, right? And she was just giddy, right? And it kind of reminded me, she's young. She's not that old. You think of her just because she's kind of an old soul, that she's older, but she's not that old. I think she's in she's 24, 25, I think. So at this point, she was probably even younger. She's probably like 22, 23 maybe. But yeah, so she got the chance to sing with Alan, A Whole New World, just a little small segment part of that. And Will Smith was like talking about how great she was. And so that had to be really just a neat experience to see some of these people that she's kind of grown to love in the Philippines, growing up with all those other girls that are big fans of Alan Menken and the music, and of course Will Smith. So it's cool to see her getting discovered, and I want to do my part to help with that. So, I've subscribed to her YouTube channel, and I always put the YouTube channel link down in my description. So be sure to do that if you haven't already, to subscribe to her channel and support her on Facebook. I think I'm in at least one or two groups, Morissette groups on Facebook. So yeah, I try to support the artists, and I have nothing but the highest hopes for her. I feel like she's going to, just really be a big star. She already is, a pretty big star, and is well known. The fact that she's getting invited by people like that, I mean, that's pretty big stuff. So it's awesome. Thank you to all of you Filipino fans out there. I really appreciate your support. And hopefully I didn't slaughter my greeting too bad. You can let me know in the comments how well I did on my pronunciation. But again, I'll close this off, but I really do appreciate all of you, and I want you to know that you are special, and that if you give love and you are faithful and you serve the ones that are close to you, and you strive to be kind and positive and happy in the way that you approach life, and you have an attitude of gratitude, it makes a huge difference. And I hope that each of you feels special and that you feel like you can accomplish your dreams, because you can. You're the only one that sets limits on yourself. So, really strive for your dreams, and this is part of what I'm doing here on my channel. This is one of my dreams, right? To be able to reach out to the world and share the gift of music and be a part of that, and of something really neat. And that's part of why I've changed kind of the look and feel for my channel. I don't know if you guys have noticed, but I changed my channel art. Now it's got the Singer Dad Reacts, and it's got like the sun in the middle, and then the notes are kind of it looks kind of cool because it looks like the notes are falling into the sun or into the light. This is Music Lights the World. So I tried to really think of a tagline or a phrase that really describes how I feel about music and what it can do for us. And that was what came to mind, right? Because there's a lot of darkness right now as far as COVID and a lot of things going on. And a lot of us are in isolation. So I think of that as kind of this darkness. And so that's why this whole kind of metaphor of light and how that comes into play came to my mind. And so that's part of why I chose that. But I also have, as I mentioned before, I have merchandise. So if you guys go to my channel and you click on the store tab, there'll be a link in the description as well. But if you go to the store tab, you'll see there's t-shirts and hoodies and accessories and things available. And it says the Singer Dad Reacts, the logo I just described, and then it says Music Lights the World. So hopefully you like the design. If you guys want to look at the design that I created, and let me know. If you have any suggestions, hey Josh, maybe try X, Y, and Z. Because obviously I'm not a logo designer or a fashion designer. I mean, I am involved with marketing. That's part of my job, my full-time job. But I'm not like a branding person or anything like that. Anyway, so I thank you very much for everything, and take care.